Hundreds of priests are defying Pope Francis's ultimatum to face liturgical East during the second half of the Mass, or else face excommunication. Join us with the latest from the Eternal City. Church Militant's Rome correspondent, Dr. Jules Gomes. Jules, Friday, we reported on Rome Dispatch that Pope Francis had just issued a videotaped ultimatum. He sent it to the Indian priests down in India, telling them they could face the people for the liturgy of the Word, but must face the tabernacle during the liturgy of the Eucharist, the second half of the Mass. He even threatened them with possible excommunication if they did not comply. We reported all that on Friday. What is the latest turn of events in this liturgical fiasco?
Brad, priests in India of the Syro-Malabar Rite are giving Pope Francis a bloody nose. What happened after Pope Francis issued his ultimatum on a video in Italian, translated in Malayalam, the local language, what happened next is really shocking, because on Sunday, as you can see in the picture, 400 priests who gathered to celebrate the Holy Kurbana, the Holy Mass. They were marking the 100th anniversary of the location of the center of the Syro-Malabar Church in Ernakulam. And guess what these priests did? They simply faced the people all through the Mass, all 400 of them, with the laity, thousands of laity participating there and completely approving. And the organizers went on to say that this is for the first time in the history of the Syro-Malabar Church, so many priests have together displayed a united stand and together have faced the people throughout the Mass. And this is really making a big news in India, and particularly in Kerala, the state where the Syro-Malabar Church originates.
Now, I think our viewers would be just dumbfounded here. They don't know whether to believe that Pope Francis would actually order priests to face liturgical East, meaning face the tabernacle, meaning face away from the people. He, Pope Francis, actually would order that, or that he would threaten them with excommunication, possible excommunication, canonical censures if they didn't. For those unfamiliar with this story, Jules, can you briefly catch them up on the details of this liturgical civil war?
Well, we're talking about a very ancient apostolic church that goes back to AD 52, when St. Thomas is supposed to have come to India. And the Syro-Malabar Church has followed the East Syriac Rite for centuries, and they have maintained the ancient tradition of facing East, however, facing the altar. However, with Vatican II, there was a certain amount of modernization and Latinization, and many dioceses, particularly priests in the diocese of Ernakulam and Gamali, that is at the epicenter of the whole controversy, they began facing the people as priests in the Latin Rite, the Novus Ordo, began doing. So there was the diversity was well accepted. My sources tell me, I've spoken to them, high-ranking priests in the Syro-Malabar Church in the diocese of Ernakulam and Gamali, and they tell me that there was no problem, there were no issues until the year 2000, when the Synod arrived at a compromise formula with expecting priests to face the people during the liturgy of the Word and then face the altar for the liturgy of the Holy Sacrament. Things took a very sinister turn, however, in 2019. Of course, nobody followed the compromise formula, but in 2019, Cardinal Alan Cherry, who resigned just last week, apparently, from what my sources tell me, took advantage of an online synod held online because of COVID, and he made it compulsory that this would happen, and there would be no exceptions to it. the priests refused, and brawls and scuffles broke out in the Cathedral, St. Mary's Basilica in Etnaculum, on the streets, etc., until August, when Pope Francis sent his personal delegate, Archbishop Cyril Vasil, to Kerala, to India, to resolve this problem. And Vasil very sternly and categorically threatened to excommunicate anybody who did not comply in a week or so. The priests defied that ultimatum and continued to celebrate as they were celebrating for many decades, and Vasil did nothing. And we are at a point where Pope Francis has himself now been compelled to issue the final ultimatum, as if an ultimatum was not enough. Sorry for the tautology here, but the final ultimatum came from Pope Francis last week in the form of a video, and that upset the people who, of Ernakulam and Gamali even more.
Let's pull back down to the eparchy down there. What's the current leadership of the Syro-Malabar Church now that the Cardinal, you say Alan Cherry, Pope Francis accepted his resignation and under some troubled circumstances there. Now, he was the one pushing this liturgical compromise. He's resigned. Who's the current leadership? What status do they have? What are they saying?
Well, the Apostolic Administrator, Bishop Bosco Putur, is insisting that in accordance with Pope Francis's diktat, which orders the priests on the pain of excommunication to comply by this order and celebrate the compromised liturgical formula by or on Christmas Day this year, December the 25th. And he says, Bishop Bosco says that if they don't do that, they will indeed face sanctions and excommunication. And Pope Francis threatened explicitly. He said, if you do not obey the orders of the successor of Peter, you are cutting yourself off from the one holy Catholic and Apostolic Church, and you are turning into a sect, a cult. And the Apostolic Administrator is obviously reinforcing Pope Francis's orders. Cardinal Alan Cherry resigned, not just because of this problem, age, etc., has been quoted, but he's been facing 14 criminal cases, major land scam cases. And things are so serious that they are hurrying to appoint his successor in January.
Now, I'd like to also, before moving on, Jules, give a shout out to the traditional priests in the Syro-Malabar Rite. They've had to give up something too. They were facing liturgical east, the altar for the entire Mass. They're willing to dial that back and face the people under this compromise deal. Face the people for the first half, the liturgy of the word, and then be allowed to face liturgical east again. So both sides are being asked to compromise. The traditional priests are willing to do that, give up facing liturgical east for the entire Mass, right? But it's the liberal priests who say, we're not giving up anything. We're going to continue facing the people for the entire Mass. Do I have that right?
Brad, that's a very good point, because this has upset not just the liberals, but the traditionalists who say that for centuries we have been facing east. We've been facing the altar for the entire Holy Kurbana. Now we are breaking our centuries-old tradition. And remember, this goes back, to the early centuries of apostolic Christianity. We are breaking this tradition, and we are willing to make a compromise, meet our brethren halfway by facing the people for the first half of the liturgy. And yet these counterparts are not willing to make a similar compromise. So yes, this has upset them as well considerably. But the people on the other side are saying, well, if they want to, face the altar, face east throughout the Mass, let them do it. If we want to face the people throughout the liturgy, let us do it like the Latin, the Novus Ordo does. But let's live in peace and let's have this healthy diversity. So you can hear the arguments from both sides, and rightly so, Brad, as you said, both sides are very, very upset and bitter over the whole thing.
Yeah, so much for diversity and inclusion right now. To what degree, Jules, are the priests being who are resisting Pope Francis, who want to face the people throughout the liturgy? How are they being supported by the laity?
There is a very strong lay movement. On the whole, the laity are very strong, highly educated in Kerala. And the Almaya Munetum, a strong laity organization, has said that they will support their priests who want to face the people. They will support them to the hilt, and they will not go along, following their priests with the compromise formula. Now, remember, in fact, at the Mass on Sunday, Justice Kurian Joseph, noted Supreme Court judge, now retired, but a very high-ranking judge, he came out openly in a speech and he said, even the Pope can make mistakes. Pope Francis, in this case, has made a mistake and he needs to correct it. But then the diocese shot back in a press release, and the diocese said the Cyril Malabar Church, rather, they said that these priests are misinterpreting Pope Francis's video. They are trying to demonstrate there are factual errors in the video. They are using this to justify the disobeying the Pope, and they're trying to say that what the Pope said in the video was that you only need to adopt the compromise formula when celebrating Mass on festive occasions, on feast days. On other days, Sundays, it's okay if you do it your way. The laity, yes, are very strongly behind these priests.
Well, let's move to Rome for a minute. What's the latest in Rome on all this? Is Pope Francis preparing to follow up on his ultimatum with the final ultimatum?
Well, he's really planning to, excommunicate them this time, I expect. But yesterday he met Archbishop Cyril Vasil. And the Vatican, you can see the photograph released by the Holy See Press Office. And the Vatican releases photographs very strategically. I suspect our viewers already know this. And when they want to make a point, when the Pope wants to make a point, he releases a picture of a meeting with a high-ranking leader. And he's released that picture. You can see the look on his face, basically sending out yet another message to the priests in the Diocese of Ernakulam and Gamali, saying that I will not tolerate any defiance. You better respect my delegate this time, because when Cyril Vasil went in August, he was met with very fierce resistance. In fact, they even said that they would complain to the government of India to throw him out, coming in as a foreigner and dictating to the Indian church.
Okay, so Jules, based on your in-depth coverage, you've been all over the story from the past up and through the present. All of your contacts in India, lay and experts and priests, and basically all things considered, where do you see this going? Do you see Pope Francis actually excommunicating these defiant priests who are going to just say, no, we're going to face the altar or face the people throughout the whole liturgy? We're not going to face the tabernacle during the second half of the Mass, even though our ancient ancestors faced tabernacle through the whole liturgy. Are we going to see yet another final, hey, I really mean it this time, guys, ultimatum? Which side is going to blink first?
I think he's going to play it a la Rupnik. I'm referring to the, infamous Jesuit who is accused of raping, or rather sexually grooming, and then having sex with over 25 nuns. Remember, he was excommunicated, and the excommunication was lifted within a month. So I expect what's going to happen is that these priests will continue to dig in their heels and maintain their position even on Christmas Day 2023. This is my prediction, and I may be very wrong here. They might have a last-minute change of heart. But so far, they have not shown any signs of buckling under this diktat. So they will, I suspect, be suspended, because you can't suspend, more than 400 priests. And they are having the support of priests all over the world, 600,000 laity. And many of the laity are also supporting these priests. You can't excommunicate the laity, but you can, but it's not going to be very easy. And there will be some sort of commission appointed, as these priests have indeed been demanding all this while. And I think it's going to go back to a status quo. With Cardinal Alan Cherry out of the way in January, if there is a less rigid archbishop appointed, he may be more flexible to the actual practice of diversity and inclusion, and let the traditionalists get on with what they have been doing for centuries, and let the modernists follow the spirit of Vatican II, as it were.
Okay. Well, on another completely unrelated topic, Jules, we'll be spending a little extra time together. Both of us be on the Retreat at Sea, the 10th annual, Church Militant's 10th annual Retreat at Sea, February 4th through the 11th. I don't suppose we'll be having Rome dispatches being shot from the ship, but we'll be giving conferences on the Holy Spirit. It'd be very nice to spend time with you and be able to, one-on-one, sip a little orange juice or water, as the case may be, and talk over old times.
Or something stronger, Brad. We will be talking on the Holy Spirit, and that is something I'm really looking forward. I've been studying and preparing my talks, and it's going to be a wonderful occasion. What more edifying and sublime topic to be speaking on than, the third person of the Blessed Holy Trinity, the Holy Spirit himself. And I'm looking forward to returning to the United States for a short time. The last time I remember, I went for a conference, and I had the privilege of sharing the platform with really eminent speakers like Tucker Carlson and Senator George Hawley. But this time I will be sharing the platform with you, Brad Eli, and I'm really, really looking forward to that. Yeah,
it's on the Holy Spirit Misunderstood, and I think Archbishop Anthony Fisher, if he was there, he would say, yeah, a lot of scapegoating of the Holy Spirit going on these days. So, if you have the opportunity, be on the Retreat at Sea, you'll be able to talk with us one-on-one and break things down, what's going on in the world. So back to the story here, I'm still not sure what part of this story amazes me the most. Pope Francis, so adamant about priests face the tabernacle during the second half of the Mass, called the Liturgy of the Eucharist, which is liturgically appropriate, or that he's wielding a canonical stick with actually a threat of excommunicating priests, especially in this age of dialogue and inclusion. It seems almost rigid coming from this pontificate. Jules, thank you again for just being right on top of the story.
Thank you, Brad.
Thanks again for watching today's episode of Rome Dispatch. This show is brought to you by donors like Real Estate for Life. If you're looking to buy or sell a home and want to support our mission, visit realestateforlife.org. Again, that's realestateforlife.org. Be sure to tell them Church Militant sent you. God bless.